Hello and welcome back to another episode. This time we will finally have a look how to make the terminal a little better. So currently still in LinuxMint 21.3, you would open a terminal with Ctrl-Alt-T. Great. This is already better than Windows, like way better, but in the current year, like let's say at least 5 years already, it's ridiculous to write commands in the terminal without completion, without amazing colors, and you can have a prompt that's much more responsive to the directory that you're currently in. So we will address exactly these three things. We will keep this terminal, which is the GNOME terminal, but we will get a better prompt that will be very responsive to where you are and extremely helpful. We will get a better shell that will show you if the comment you're writing is valid, giving you a much better user experience, and most of all, it will hint what you're probably attempting to write based on where you are and what you have written in the past, your history. And we will also get a better less command. So when you go to man echo, let's say, we will get this also looking much better and how to open it in a better way. So let's go right through it. I have some notes here. Okay, let's make a better shortcut. So in keyboard, shortcuts, launchers, launch terminal, we'll keep Ctrl-Alt-T just for tradition, but I'll put here Super T. You can put here whatever you like, but Super T, much better. I need only two keys now, Super T, and we're there. Nice. That's the first thing. Second thing, to know how to move this thing. The moment you open it, you want to put it somewhere or have it, or maybe change the size based on the current situation. It's good to know how to do that in LinuxMint. LinuxMint is actually really amazing in window movement that I don't often see people do. So one way how to move windows is with super and arrow keys. So right now I can just super right or super top, left, left, down, down, right, right, top, and anytime I'm in in it like this, where it's going through the whole side or top or down, I can super left and I'm back in the middle. If I do double down, it's maximized, and again down, down. And if another way how to maximize it is Alt F10, Alt F10. So that's a great thing, how to use it with tiling capabilities. But if I have it some specific size and I want it to keep the size and just put it in a corner, for example, an amazing way how to do it is with Alt F7. Alt F7, now the cursor looks like with these arrows, right? And if I now, again, use the arrow keys, it moves just a little bit. If I use it with Control, it moves just by pixels. But when I use it with Shift, that's amazing. I do Shift, right, and it snaps to the closest border. The closest border here on an empty desktop would be the edge. So I do just right, Shift down, Enter, and it's in the corner. Perfect. If there would be something under it, it would snap to that, right? So now if I would do Alt F7 and Shift top, it would hit there on the bottom, right? And anytime I'm in this mode and I don't want to confirm with the enter, I can just escape and it's cancelled. So that's movement. What you can also do, you can resize with Alt F8. I don't do it that often, but totally possible. In this mode, you can again use the same keys and movements, yeah, with shift and snapping, or without it, but I don't use it that much. Now, when I click left, the cursor changes like this, or down, or right, or top. Again, if I leave it with right, now if I would do left, it would move it, you know? So it's like you have to go around it to get to the side that you want, and then you can change it. And if you want to keep it, you again enter. Yay. Normally you would end up in a situation where you learn how exactly what exact size you want. Like, let's say I want 6933 and I want to always open it with 6933. You do that in the properties. So to get to the properties, you do shift right, properties, or preferences, sorry. And yeah, it's here, 135 and 34, done. Another thing I like to change here is the transparency. Yeah, so untick this, tick this, and put it, I have it on the first tick here, which is like 10%. There's 10 spaces here. And another thing, not use the default system theme, but to put it on white on black, to have it really black. That makes it not as transparent, and I think it's easier to read the text. And also I disable scrolling to get rid of this scroll bar, and that's it. This run as a custom command. I will go back to it later. We will not use it here, but it's something you could use to run tools that you would want to have started on each opening of the terminal. Okay, this is for the preferences, for the properties for now. Now we will install these tools that will make your life in the terminal so much better. These three in the past were possible to install only through Cargo, which is the package manager, let's say, the tool to compile Rust code on your machine, but they are so good and popular that all three made their way to the default repositories, so installing them became just so easy. It's just you're wasting your energy and productivity by not having them almost. And Fish, also totally amazing. The FishShell, it's obviously an alternative to the bash shell, and another alternative that's popular is zsh, but everything that I'm using here and my whole IT philosophy and what to recommend to people is basically to have a good default user experience and a good out-of-the-box experience where you have simple configs, right? Like you can always get the most difficult tool possible and customize it to your heart's content, but there are things that really make your life easier, where you don't need to be a magician to like learn the dark arts of Lua to get your Vim to a perfect level or something, you know, like there are other ways. Like instead of Vim you could use Helix, which I highly recommend, for example. Instead of ZSH you can use Fish, which is amazing. Instead of Arch Linux you can use LinuxMint, which is amazing, right? Like you can experiment with more difficult tools, but there are these user-friendly tools that I highly recommend. So these go in the same spirit. So these three we can install through the default package manager, and Starship we will install through recommended script that basically just downloads the correct binary and extracts it in the appropriate place. Sudo apt install fish, Okay. Excel and can actually copy command results to your clipboard. That's something that I also make use of. It's amazing. So Fish is now totally running. We now will have, for example, if I would now sudo, it immediately colors the command so that we know that the command is valid. Like sud is not a real command, but sudo would work. That's why it's green. I love this. In your case, it will be blue. This is actually a remnant of old. I tested this before, and that's why it's green, because I prefer to have it green. For some reason, after deleting the config, it still remembers that I wanted to have it green. Anyway, we'll have it blue, but the point stands that it colors the commands. And you have amazing functionality like CD. It tells you where you could go based on your history. You tap, it gives you all the possibilities where you can go. You go to downloads, and you can alt left arrow, and it basically in the background runs prevd, which puts you one directory back, or next d, which puts you one to the front. Their h directory history would show you this history, and this is one out of many amazing tools. Like you could alt h to open the man page of the last of the command that you read. So that's great. Just Q to quit out of it. What else? Like you can write something like, let's say PR, and not only does it let you give you like a hint, but if you would up arrow, it would show you all the, like let's say, this is not a real command, right? But I will run it. It's an error, but still, if I would do PR, if I up arrow, it would show me. It would like select from the history, you know, everything that's filtered based on what I just wrote. With Control U, I delete it. If I write CD, or let's say, like for example, see here, I CD, and it doesn't give me like options because I didn't run CD in the downloads before. But if I go just up, if I CD now, it gives me the option to go to downloads. If I wanna finish the next word, I do Alt F. If I wanna delete one word, I do Control W. And if I wanna complete the whole thing, let's say C, and I want to complete the whole thing, not just D, but the whole thing, I would Control F. Yeah. Or I could just right arrow. It's great. Like, you can learn more about how to use Fish on FishShell.com. I highly recommend to go here. You can do the tutorial, or in interactive use. Like if you go through this page, I mean, I know it looks a little long, but you can skip many parts, like the vim commands you can skip if you don't use it right. For example, I like how vim works. I use Helix personally, which is quite similar, but I don't like to use it in the terminal, for example. The point is, you just go through this, and it will help you a huge amount. You will learn how incredibly useful Fish can be. The FishShell can be for you. Alt S, for example, you know, it's such an amazing thing. You know, like let's say I want to. I did this, but oh, it was a mistake, it didn't work, I needed to run it with sudo. If I just Alt S, it gives me the previous command, just adds sudo into it. Or let's say I am writing echo something, and I just want to prepend it with sudo. Oh, I forgot to prepend sudo. I can always alt s, and it's the same thing, it just prepends sudo. So amazing. Control U to delete. Yeah, so really go through it, it will help you a bunch. Next thing. So I'm already explaining how useful fish is, but let's leave the config for later. Let's install bat. So yeah, bat. Bang. Yes. Previously I didn't know that bat is already in the default repository. Like, this is so amazing, really. The only small downside, or like small complication here, is that we don't like to have sponsored links. Yep, we don't like to have sponsored links. And bat, yeah, this is it. So totally amazing, totally recommended. One small thing that you have to keep in mind when installing on LinuxMint or like Ubuntu or something, because bat is already used somewhere somehow, like I didn't fully understand it, I didn't fully read through this. I guess it's explained here, but they simply decided to name the package batcat once it's installed. So you install it through as bat, but now you would run it as batcat. So that's interesting. Like echo something, you could pipe it into batcat, and you have something. Like it's like batcat functions like cat or less, with syntax highlighting and many other useful flags. So it's totally amazing, highly recommended. But one way how to get the name a little shorter is to use the recommended version here to have it called bat as was initially intended. I guess I would just use this recommended way, or you could make an abbreviation or alias. Abbreviation is an alias made in FishShell. We'll get to it in a moment, but okay, just to, I mean, be compliant. I think this is totally legit. And once in FishShell, Control V works normally. Like, I don't have to do Control Shift V anymore. Just simple Control V works. I mean, I like that as well. So we created the bin in the local, and then we just make how is it called? A softlink to, is it called a softlink? Symlink, yeah. I think it's just a different word for it, yeah. Oh yeah, because I did it a moment ago. Yeah. I just tested all of this before. So it's already there, but yeah. So for me, bat would already work. Yeah, I see. So both bat and batcat both would work for you like this. Yeah, it's fine. Let's move along. Exa, also amazing, same situation. And luckily you don't need to rename anything here. Sudo apt install exa. One thing to mention is that exa is out of maintenance for the last maybe 2 years. There is a fork of it that is more actively maintained, that's called eza, but I still don't really recommend it because, number one, you will not be able to install it this easily. Number two, I don't really see the total necessity for it right now. They claim that they fixed some issue with some kind of grouping, but for me grouping always worked totally fine even here. The thing what you can do with exa now is an ls-l would look like this, but then exa minus all list grouped would look like this, and if it has enough space for the grouping, it will look like this. You know, this is great. And with a little bit of tweaked command, if it would look like this, you would, well, always get colors, scale the file size, color, get icons. That finally takes advantage of the nerd fonts we installed previously, and groups directories first. This is totally amazing. And with another small hack, in Fish, you can have this under a shortcut where you do just Alt K, and okay, doesn't work right now, doesn't remember this, I'll do that in a moment. But this already looks amazing, right? I think. So this is installed exa. We'll look at the configuration in a tiny moment. And to get Starship, let's have a look online. This is the page. It's the absolutely best tool to configure your prompt. So to install it, you go to Linux, copy the thing, bang, and I had a look before at the script. You don't need to be worried. It really just looks up what your system is and installs it into the correct place or updates it. You then get also an info that, okay, if you want to use it in Fish, you need to put this into its config. We'll do that right now, actually. So this is already all installed. Let's have a look at the config. Yeah, we don't need anything from here anymore. So super E, and let's start with Fish. So we put into Fish here. There's a default config here, but we don't lose anything here. Like, there's nothing important here. The is interactive. If it's important for you, you can always find it in the docs. So we just replace it and have a quick look on what I use, for example. So we make it a little bit bigger. To switch the shell so that your default shell stops being bash and starts being Fish, is you can double check what shells you can use with this command, and from these you can choose any shell that can become your new default shell. To do that, you do change shell and just point it to the right binary. Done. And for that we will need to just relog in. So let's do that right now. Close it, close, like Control W, Control Q, close as well, and yeah, let's just log out and log back in and see if it opens for us exactly as we want. So Super T opens Fish for us. Perfect, right? I put it in the corner with Alt F7, Shift, right, down, Enter. Beautiful. And let's have a look at the rest of the config. So make it a little larger. Thanks to this Fish greeting, so set just changes the variable, and by not having anything behind this, it just gets rid of the greeting. You know, we don't need this. I have some notes here how to set up or how to force the terminal to have colors in case you're running it through some multiplexer or other terminal or something that that is making problems with it. Like right now you don't need it, and as I'm mentioning here, by default on Ubuntu you already have this one, so it's totally fine. This is what I used before I had Starship. This just sets up a different looking FishShell for you, shell prompt. And this is the one that sets the dark bold green color for the for this, like for the command, because I think it just looks better. It's also better to distinguish it from the arguments, right, for the command. So this way you know that green are programs and blue are arguments. It's great. Control U to get rid of it. This was just an experiment I had before. For some reason, like, I still have problems getting this to work, but it's to make the man page more colorful. So the ways you can get to the man page is either echo, right, man echo, and thanks to this you already have nice colors here. That's great. But I can imagine that in the future there could be some better solution than this hacky looking thing. This could work, but for some reason it gives me some small glitches. Anyway, this is an amazing thing that I wanna show you. You can set up key bindings. So I explain here why I have them written as I do with these two echoes. So this E means that it expects you to press Alt, and the K means that you just press the Alt with K, and then it runs this thing. It makes a new line, runs a command, and then like basically pretty prints it so that you can see the result. Thanks to that thing, I can now Alt K and see basically the result of this command, but I don't have to totally run it. I just, at any moment when I'm like anywhere in some, like I'm writing something, echo something, and I wanna, like, I don't know, I'm going through something, anytime I can do just Alt K and bang, I get the current directory that I'm in. That's amazing. And this one is also extremely helpful because not every command that you run has a man page. If a command has a man page, you can either just directly do man, echo, and then you're in the man page, quit to go out, or what Fish allows you to do is you just echo and you do Alt H and you're again in the same man page. That's amazing. That already by itself is a huge help. But some commands don't have the man page, right? Like, for example, Starship, because Starship is not installed through the normal repository. Pressing Alt H doesn't do anything. Doing man Starship doesn't do anything. Of course not. But what Starship has, it does have a help flag. I could run that, but sometimes helps are super long. You would end up at the end of it, and it's not nicely colored. So a thing you can do here is, in this situation, when I just press up to get it again, and I do Alt M, like man page, and it gives me this ability to not have to type it out, right? And I just enter, and I get it basically piped to bat with the flags to have it plain, not adding like the borders and line numbers and everything. And if it would be longer, I would have it in the pager and language man, you know, so that it colors the thing as a man page. So here I have some envs for the default editor and default pager. Like I love Helix, I love Bat, so that's just what I have there. And then some aliases. As I explained before, the abbreviations in Fish make it so that an alias expands, right? So if this is the L, I do just L, and with the space it expands. I don't even have to write space. I can just do enter, and it expands. And I think this is much better than classical Linux aliases because you see what's actually running. So this is great. I have several things here, and at the end there's the Starship prompt that basically integrates Starship into Fish when you run Fish. So that's why we have this. Actually, yeah, like this is still the default Starship, but let's now put the Starship config in. So I think this is just enough to introduce the Fish config. Yeah. And Starship we would put directly in the config page, in the config folder, just like this. And there's not much happening here. This is just that this is something you would uncomment if you would like to have just one line. This would stop having add new line, so this would stop these new lines in between commands, and this would put the command on one line, like not having the directory and the cursor on a different line. So if you wanted, like, you can easily do it that way. Here I just changed the symbol just to have it a little bit more interesting. So to see it, I could just open a new tab, Ctrl-Shift-T, and this is how this config looks like, just to have it a little bit more interesting. The timer is extremely useful, actually. That's set in here, and then just some git counts. Without this command, it doesn't show you the amount of commits to be downloaded or uploaded, but like this, git is even more useful. So I think that's all for the Starship config. So we went through those. The last mention here is if you would like some even more functionality, there's something that's called terminal multiplexers. Tmux is amazing. I personally use it, but I use it with the config that I got from byobu, because configuring tmux from scratch is incredibly annoying. So you usually would, it's like Vim, you know, like you have to learn the whole thing around the whole tool just to start using it, and in the end you just use a config from somebody else anyway, right? So I used byobu for a long time, but at some point it broke a little bit with Fish, with some versions. Right now, or these days, it works again, so I totally recommend byobu over tmux for a normal user. But just because of this, me personally, I have the tmux config files from byobu, and I'm using it in plain tmux. But there is a new amazing tool called zellij that I recommend on #1 position, because it's the best out-of-the-box experience with really easy and simple by the hand holding you configurations. And so this is great. The only thing that I still don't have in zellij is moving tabs, where you could just easily move tabs and switch them, but I think it's just currently being worked on. And how you could integrate the multiplexer into the shell is with what I explained before. You could just write a custom command here, and that way the multiplexer would be run on every start of the terminal. So that's one way how to do it. I think that's all from this explanation, and in the future I might still show you how to use Helix and also how to customize a little bit Nano, because the default Nano is really not very amazing. But right now, as we are in this situation, this is already very useful, really beautiful, suggests you things, commands and arguments. You get nice looking directories with abbreviations and everything. You can easily switch between directories. This is already beautiful, very useful, highly recommend to everybody. This is like the first step how to make your terminal that much more useful. Like even with these help pages, you know, this is just so great, so great. So thank you for your attention, and maybe see you next time. Ciao ciao.